You guys, I'm running late. I'm in my car still. I feel not the greatest. I'm stressed. I'm dreading seeing my test results, which I think, no, I failed the test. I think it's past the W day. So I might just have to eat an F, or at least just give this my best. I don't really know what's up, to be honest. And I won't know for a while. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm trying to go in my suitcase for something. I don't know. I'm kind of like out of it. I still haven't unpacked things. I met somebody at the gathering, and they have intensely changed my life. I actually met a couple people on this whole trip that have just immensely changed my life. I really don't want to go to class right now. Like, at all. At all. I seem to be missing my syllabus to my history class as well, which is also extremely frustrating. It's very hot in my car. I gotta get the fuck out of here. I guess we're just gonna walk into class. I mean, just participate anyway. What else can I fucking do? You know? I was gonna read my notebook. I changed my mind. No, don't change your mind. Just key points to write down, you know? Try, Trina. Here's a pen. Here's this. My car's mad dirty. Never got my free Big Island bowl. Been crying a lot, healing a lot, letting go a lot of stuff, coming to terms with a lot of different stuff. It's been pretty great, actually. Very on point with my path. Very happy. Very happy despite all the crying. In fact, the crying makes me happy, you know? I love letting it go. Definitely a few minutes late. Fuck. Fucking 3 hours of this shit. Do it. I want to go back to the gathering. I keep time traveling my mind to my experiences. Oh fuck. Security's coming. E-cigarettes aren't even allowed.
Did I put someone else's test? And then I look and the other one is also has your name on it. And I was like, and then I was like, oh, it's fine. But that like freaked me out for a minute because I thought maybe I like just grabbed like his test and then graded it with yours and then put it, and then I was like, no, I didn't do that at all. Yeah. All right, I'm kidding. Reach for the absolutely. And Mr. Hooks. All right, so let's talk about the test for a minute, and then we will move on. You should be able to figure out how you got your grade. In that, what I did is the red number at the bottom of your sketch run. That's the number of multiples you got right. Double that because they're each worth 2 points, and then add the number of points you got on each short answer. So if you got like 5 out of 12 and 5 out of 12, add 10, right? And then add 2 points for the 2 bonus questions, and you should be able to get your grade, right? And so if you got like 35 times 2 is 70, and then 5 out of 12, 5 out of 12, so that's an 80 and then an 82, right? And so if for some reason you don't think that I derived your grade correctly, like I made a math error, like please let me know, because it's totally happened before. It's totally happened where someone will come up and like, yeah, you know, like I think you know it's 2 or 4 points or whatever. I gave a guy like a couple semesters ago like a 12 or 14 point grade wrong. and he was very polite, and he was like, I just think that this is not right. And I was like, let me look. And I was like, yeah, I don't know why you got that grade. Like, it wasn't even that I made a simple mathematical error. It was completely off the wall. So, if that's the case, as I would say, it's like Monopoly. Did I do yours wrong?
I'm not sure. I was trying to just make sure that I got it.
Ask me either after the grade, and I'll look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
The way I say is, it's like Monopoly or a bank error. If I made an error that penalizes you, then I'll fix it, because obviously I don't want to give you a grade that's lower than what you should have earned, right? Like, you get an 88, you should get an 88, not an 86. I stink at math. On the other hand, it's also like the bank, where if I make an error that benefits you, if you don't say anything to me, then I would not know that happened, and you would just get whatever you got, like whatever's already in my grade book. So I really did have somebody come up, it was a couple years ago, and he was like, hey, I think you made a mistake in my test. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, let me look at it. And I had given him extra points. And I was like, looks like I gave you an extra point. He's like, yeah, I just feel bad. I don't only want points that I deserve. I was like, okay, but if you had just not said anything, you would have just had this, like, but it's like the telltale heart, right? The old man's body is in the basement, and the heart is being changed. So, I mean, if I made a mistake, like, I'll fix it. But if it was a good mistake, then, like, just don't say anything. Or, I mean, if it bothers you, obviously, honesty is important, right? Having said that, what else we say? That was the test, the first test. The analogy that I use for the test is that they're like episodes of Law and Order, in that the content is different, but the format is exactly the same. And so if you're wondering, like, God, what's the next test gonna be like? It's gonna be like this test, like the paper and the ink and the font and the like procedure and the feelings that you might have about. It's all gonna be the same. It's just I'm just gonna ask you about different stuff. Obviously, you guys, World War I and the Depression and World War II, right? Yes.
What was the average of our class?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know. Someone else asked me that. I don't really keep track of it, but I would guess it would be somewhere in the 80s. Yeah. I'd have to. It was the multiple choice was like the average was like an 88 or 90, but that's only the multiple choice, because the machine averages that while I do it. Yeah. And so again, the next test is gonna look shockingly similar in terms of like the kind of questions I'm gonna ask and the way that we're gonna do the test, and blah blah blah. Right. And so if you have questions about the short answer, if you have questions about your grade, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. We'll discuss that. So and then bring me yours after, because if I actually made a mathematical error, we'll fix that. Right. Or if you just can't read what I said for whatever reason. I had grad school professors who you work papers in and they give you back comments. And one guy had to go through like layers of translation, because first you have to figure out what he wrote in the sense of like his handwriting's bad, and then the comments didn't make any sense. And so you would be like, is this a paper about Napoleon? And you wrote a comment about like Friedrich Nietzsche, so like, is that like, is there something I don't understand? Or, and then he would be like, he would, I was like, I don't know how I read that. So it was an adventure with Dr. Bergman, because you would be like, what does this say? Like, is this, so, and my handwriting is probably as bad. I mean, I found your handwriting totally fine to read. So.
What about mine? I'm so impressed that you could read it.
Oh, it was fine. Oh yeah.
Wow.
I mean, my skills apparently are quite good. Because,
Yes, they are.
Yeah. And so it was as good as my handwriting, or better. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll do this again. Ideally, I would like to have the next test Monday at the earliest, week from today. I would, at the latest, I would like to have it a week from Wednesday. Because as it turns out, you may not have noticed that there's not a lot of summer semester left, which is terrifying. Yeah, as it tends to do. So we got off to a really slow start because we had those 2 weeks where we started on Wednesday and then we had the holiday the next week, and so it sort of lulled me into a false sense of security. So having said that, we have a ton of stuff to go through. I have the review sheet for the test does exist. I don't have a paper copy of it. So my plan was to do one of two things. If you want a paper copy and are willing to wait till Wednesday, I'll just bring some in. If you really would like to have it earlier, talk to me afterwards and I can email you. If I have it on the flash drive, I can email it to you, or I can email it to you tonight. And so let me know. If you're okay just waiting 2 days, then I'll just give it to you then. But I thought I had a copy squirreled away somewhere in my bag, and I don't. There's probably a copy in my office somewhere. So having said that, let's talk about the 1920s briefly, and then we'll move on and talk about the 1930s at more length, because the 1930s are frankly more important, and we've got to pick and choose, right? Well, sort of the skeleton for the 1920s that we talk about, at least in this class, is presidential politics, right? So we have a little bit of a story to tell. You can see here, this is the president that succeeds Woodrow Wilson on the left, Warren Gamaliel Harding, Warren G. Harding, another Ohio Republican, a seemingly inexhaustible supply of those during the late 19th and early 20th century. Harding campaigns in 1920 on what he calls a return to normalcy. That's his great theme. It doesn't really matter that normalcy is not an actual English word, it's fine, don't worry about it. And so there is this sense that the Wilson years were very tumultuous. There was this great press for reform. There was this, inevitably this sort of, the Theodore Roosevelt 1912 election sort of story made things kind of turbulent. And I think that Harding summed it all up when he said sort of the business of the country is business, and people want to just sort of go back to their business. And we had the World War I, and we had this grand international events and this huge things that people, Harding says, just want to sort of go back and kind of live their lives, right? And it's an appealing message. And so Harding defeats, I want to say it's James Cox is the Democratic nominee, and his running mate is a New York politician, Franklin Roosevelt. We'll talk about him later. They're defeated. And so what can we say about Harding himself? Generally not considered one of the best presidents, somewhere generally actually fairly down the list towards the bottom. Harding had been a newspaper man in Ohio, had bought a newspaper, and he'd gone early in the 20th century as a delegate or as a reporter to one of the Republican national conventions, and really liked presidential politics and sort of got involved in politics at that point. I think he'd been a senator from Ohio. And so when he got elected, the election of Harding in particular marked the definitive turn of the Republican Party away from progressivism. Right? The progressives had sort of bolted from the party in the Roosevelt election in 1912, and they never really came back. Right? And so Harding marks the shift to a Republican Party to a much more sort of business-friendly, small government agenda. And that's exactly what Harding thinks the government should do, is as little as possible, let the economy grow on its own. And at least in the beginning of the 20s, they called the Roaring 20s for a reason, right? I mean, the economy booms, post-war prosperity is a major thing. The United States of America is a net creditor nation. That is to say, we owe far more money is owed to us than we owe to other countries. And so for a while, the economy is pretty good. The problem with Harding is that inevitably it's sort of difficult to separate his politics from the scandals that envelop his presidency. And so there's a major oil lease scandal called Teapot Dome that consumes a great deal of time and attention. And Harding himself is plagued by rumors of a variety of things, most notably infidelity. And so the Democrats are quick to seize on that. And when Grover Cleveland had run in 1896, the old story had been the Republicans used to say, "Ma, ma, where's my pa?" Gone to the White House, ha ha ha, because Grover Cleveland had fathered an illegitimate daughter. It turns out Harding had done the same thing. In fact, he had a long-running affair with his next-door neighbor's wife from back in, I want to say, Cleveland, Ohio is where they live. And we know about all this because the Harding Presidential Library has decided his reputation is so damaged they don't care. So they released a couple of years ago all of his private letters on the internet. You can go read them all. And in them include the letters he wrote to his longtime mistress, which include basically graphic depictions or allusions to material of a sexual nature. And so it turns out he referred to his anatomy, as male anatomy, as Jerry, and would routinely talk about the fact that like he and Jerry are going to come visit, and it was like, cool, that's super crass.
Wow.
So during the election, yeah, that's like not the worst previous thing that he wrote. So
I gotta see that.
yeah, Google Warren G. Harding. And so during the 1920 election, actually, there was a woman named Nan Britton who had a child, and a fairly credible story about how the child was Warren's. And so what actually happened is the Republican Party, the party chairman from New Jersey, who was the treasurer of Atlantic City, a guy named Enoch Thompson, who was the character in the HBO show Boardwalk Empire, they actually took Nan Britton and sort of put her on ice in Atlantic City and sort of like, come for us for the vacation and just relax in Atlantic City and stay in a hotel and whatever. And the idea was to get her out of the way so reporters are going to talk to her. And sadly, Nan Britton maintained till the end of her life that Warren is going to come take us to the White House, or he's going to acknowledge my kid, and Warren G. Harding was not going to do any of those things. And so Harding's tenure in the White House is cut short when he dies of a heart attack. And he's in the West. The Taft had gone to the West. Roosevelt had gone to the West. But this is the first time that some of these states will have been visited by the president after they had become states. And so it's a big deal, particularly I think Hardy's going to go to Alaska. His commerce secretary, actually Herbert Hoover, goes with him and leaves early. And when Herbert Hoover comes home, his wife asked him how the trip was, and he said basically all the president wanted to do was drink